breaking news this morning. Former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke officially announces his candidacy for the 2020 Democratic nomination for president. O'Rourke making his official announcement earlier this hour.
Amy and I are happy to share with you that I'm running to serve you as the next president of the United States of America. This is a defining moment of truth for this country and for every single one of us.
Beto joins a growing list of contenders looking to unseat President Trump in next year's election. Joining us right now is Real Clear Politics White House reporter Philip Wegmann. Philip, good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Your reaction to Beto?
Well, look, if magazine writers were the ones who decided who was going to be president of the United States, Beto O'Rourke would already be in the White House. There have been so many magazine profiles about this guy. He's going to have to run the old-fashioned way. And I think what we're going to find out, what Beto O'Rourke is going to realize, is that the other candidates who are competing against him are going to ask a lot tougher questions than a lot of the journalists who have been following him when he was challenging Senator Ted Cruz and who kept following him ever since.
Yeah, they call him a baby Kennedy. Dagan, how do you see it?
I think that, and I've said this before, he would not be getting nearly as much attention, particularly from the media and celebrities in Hollywood, if he looked like somebody else. But he does look like one of the Kennedy kids, quite frankly. Number one. Number two, he's got the Annie Leibovitz photographs in Vanity Fair on the cover with his dog to make him likable. That's not an accident.
Annie Leibovitz.
And he said in the cover story, "I want to be in it, man. I'm just born to be in it."
Obnoxious.
Well, again, he has the advantage of the American people not knowing a whole lot about him at this point. He is a young face, and he gave Ted Cruz a run for his money where he came within 5 percentage points of beating Ted Cruz in an increasingly purple state. Again, I think people see him as a vice presidential candidate, but him with, say, Joe Biden. Joe Biden has historically had trouble raising money. Particularly in the presidential race. Beto can raise some money. We know that.
Well, he does. He's not running for vice president. He's running for president.
No, he's no more running for a vice president than Barack Obama, after his sensational speech in the 2004 convention, was going to be settled to be VP in the future.
But what's his policies? What's his messaging? What is he going to do? I mean, the last time we went and voted for someone who was attractive, we didn't like the policies at the end of the day.
They're all the same. They're all trying to find new ways, going after cows and things like that, to distinguish themselves in an indistinguishable field. And so his thing is going to be, he's better looking, he's got the glamour, he's got good photographers and that kind of stuff, sort of the Kennedy thing, but substance-free in terms of distinguishing himself from other candidates.
But maybe you can be substance-free because the substance that's been regurgitated by the candidates who are already out there is appalling and unappealing to a lot of Americans.
Oh, you mean like the Green Deal?
Wealth confiscation, Medicare for all, which, by the way, I want to point out Bernie Sanders' bill that Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Elizababeth Warren and Cory Booker all signed on to that eradicates and abolishes and outlaws private insurance.
Using Medicare is false advertising. Right. It's not Medicare.
Right, exactly.
But, I have a question for Philip. So Slate magazine, which is not exactly a conservative publication, actually hit Beto and said that he has, I'm paraphrasing them, but they said he has no idea why he's running. Is an entitled rich white guy actually the future of the Democratic Party?
Well, I mean, that's going to be the script that I think a lot of the opposition is going to lodge against him, because they're going to try and paint him as this sort of Holden Caulfield type who is aimless, who lost his last bid, and who really hasn't done a lot to, deserve the type of nomination. And I think that those are going to be incredibly powerful attacks when, like Steve said a second ago, this is not going to be necessarily the most substantive debate about who the nominee should be, because the field is already so far left. So we're going to see a personality-driven race. That's my thought from a lot of the analysts who I'm talking to. And I think that his competition is going to be a lot of the more charismatic, energetic candidates on the left who kind of do fill that Obama lane. And my thought here is perhaps Beto O'Rourke might be too late.
In this field, if you're a Democrat, you only have to kind of be normal. And not crazy and extreme. You have a Democratic Party that is not only getting behind abolishing all private health insurance in this country, basically driving up the price of gasoline and all fossil fuels, our electricity bills, to the moon, which crushes the poor, but also the party of, anti-Semitism and infanticide, because there has not been enough pushback from the leadership in the party and from some of these candidates on the anti-Semitic comments and on the third trimester abortion bills.
And then another thing in this field, when you look at most of these candidates, is not only they not having any real differences on issues, but what have they done with their lives? Bernie didn't get a job till he was 53.
Wow. Is that right? I did not know that. We got to get to this. Let me ask you this, Philip, because Andrew Weissman, one of the most prominent members of the special counsel Robert Mueller's team, will leave the Justice Department. That's according to two sources speaking to NPR. We know that this is an individual who was at the Department of Justice when they first came up with the dossier from Fusion GPS. He knew that the dossier was paid by Hillary Clinton, and 2 weeks ago, Congressman Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows sent a letter to William Barr saying, we want accountability. What did he say about the fact that he's totally conflicted because he knew about the dossier and that Hillary Clinton paid for it, and now he's the special counsel's assistant or deputy?
So I think what's interesting about Weissman's exit is that this is the prosecutor who a lot of people in the Trump campaign were most worried about. If you remember, it was Steve Bannon who called Weissman a killer, who said that he was the LeBron James of these types of investigations. It seems that, he was able to bring charges against Manafort, but so far there hasn't been anything that is stuck against the president. So I think that the White House sees this as a precursor to the investigation wrapping up, and for now, there's nothing that it seems that Weissman was able to get against the president himself.
Do you think that the letter from the Congressman Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows is sort of the catalyst that got him packing up?
That's certainly possible. We don't know right now, because the thing about this special counsel is that they don't leak, and so that certainly could have been a impetus for this. But what I think that from the NPR report, which broke the story, the way that this is being seen right now is that things are wrapping up, and finally, after this multi-year saga, it might come to an end.
All right, Philip, we'll leave it there. Good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Philip Wegmann, Real Clear Politics.